Good afternoon and welcome to today's Internet of Things Institute webcast titled How to Launch IoT Products, sponsored by ARIS. My name is Brian Bunce, Content Director with the IoT Institute. Before we begin, let me explain how you can participate in today's presentation. First, if at any time you are having audio difficulties or slides are not advancing, simply hit your F5 key to refresh your webcast console. If you have any difficulties during today's session, please press the Help button on your player console to receive assistance in solving common issues. This webinar technology allows you to resize the presentation by clicking the Maximize icon or by dragging the lower right corner to enlarge the window. We welcome your questions during today's event. In order to submit your questions to today's presenter, simply type your question into the question window on the left-hand side of the screen and then hit the Submit button. We'll be answering as many questions as possible during the Q&A session that will follow the main presentation, but please feel free to send your questions at any time and we'll be there to add them to the queue. Please also be aware that today's session is being recorded and will be available on the Internet of Things Institute website within the next week for you to review. You'll be notified by email when the archive is available. On your console, the ARIS logo is hyperlinked. If you want to visit their website during this webcast, you can click on the logo and a new window will open. This will not take you out of the webinar. So first of all, I thought I would kick things off with a couple of introductory remarks about where we are now in terms of IoT adoption. Some of the early predictions related to IoT in retrospect seem somewhat hyperbolic today. So for instance, in 2010, IBM predicted that there would be 1 trillion connected devices by 2015. A year later, in 2011, former Ericsson CEO Hans Vestberg projected that there would be 50 billion connected devices by 2020. So that 50 billion figure has become commonly referenced in the industry. Cisco helped get behind that number kind of early on and made it part of their Internet of Everything marketing campaign. And then today, you'll see that figure in a lot of blogs, and you hear it pop up at industry sessions. A lot of analysts, however, have kind of scaled that projection back down to the 20 to 30 billion range. So even so, with the 20 to 30 billion range, it still is a staggering number. And it seems like even the early projections, even if they were a bit exaggerated, they still were correct in that they identified IoT as being a huge market opportunity. So if you look back at the past several decades, you'll see that there was a given technology that was the recipient of a significant amount of money over decades. So if you go back to mainframes in the 60s and 70s, microcomputers, PCs, smartphones, each of those domains created technology ecosystems that were worth hundreds of billions of dollars. So going back to the early predictions about IoT, it seems like IoT is already receiving that level of funding. So in 2017, according to Statista, we already have reached a threshold of $254.8 billion in spending for IoT. It seems now professionals from a range of industries have gone from being skeptical about IoT to seeing it as crucial for the future of the business. And you can see that kind of theme from survey to survey to survey, from analysts, from different vendors. And then IoT continues to attract substantial funding. So according to Bain & Company, IoT has already fueled more than 80 billion in M&A and 30 billion in VC investments. In addition, Bain sees B2B applications as already being worth more than $300 billion. The analysts still agree that IoT will be massive, but they are beginning to acknowledge that making predictions about the future are very difficult, to kind of paraphrase the Danish physicist Niels Bohr. So now analysts like McKinsey are beginning to use ranges instead of a discrete number when referring to their future predictions about IoT. So for instance, McKinsey projects that the economic impact of IoT will range between 3.9 to 11 trillion by 2025. So either way, it's still a massive figure. But while IoT represents a massive market that already has significant business impact, many organizations still struggle to launch IoT projects at scale. So on the next slide, I'll touch on a few of the reasons why. So for challenges to start, I often see that many organizations still struggle with the early phase of IoT deployment. There's still a lot of companies that are launching POCs but are having trouble launching them or scaling them rather to more broad-scale deployments within their organizations. Many professionals lack experience to manage complex IoT projects. We often hear a lot about IT-OT integration. There's several other related challenges. Connectivity is often a struggle for many companies in the IoT realm, as is security, which has received a ton of attention. Analytics, machine learning, AI, all of those things are challenges for many organizations. In addition, reinventing the wheel is common when it comes to topics such as IoT connectivity, security, analytics, edge computing. You have organizations that are working on these subjects without knowing that a different company may have already figured out that particular challenge. So I'm seeing a lot of professionals are looking for help in launching and scaling IoT. And then I've heard about that same theme kind of across industries. Gartner says that IoT is the most searched for phrase in their website last year. And then while there is widespread agreement that every industry will face some kind of digital disruption in coming years, and that IoT will play an important piece in that disruption, it's difficult to estimate the timing of that coming change. So I see that organizations that are best equipped to estimate when their own firm will be disrupted have carefully studied their ecosystem and how they can use IoT to drive business efficiencies, new business models, improve customer experience, etc. But the IoT ecosystem is vast, complicated, quickly moving, which makes it really important to study case studies and then to also partner with experienced vendors who have been around in the IoT realm for a while. So then with that, I would like to introduce our presenter today. Evan Whitelock is a product management executive with Aris Communications. Evan has worked at Aris and in the IoT/M2M space for more than 5 years. Evan currently leads product marketing efforts at Aris, and he is responsible for product development, go-to-market strategies, and sales enablement. So prior to his current role, Evan sold IoT solutions at Aris for 3 years, working directly with medium to large enterprises and partners on IoT solution design and implementation. So with that, I'll turn the floor over to Evan. Welcome, Evan, and thanks for joining us today.
Brian, thank you very much. That was a great introduction. Appreciate you going through that and kind of setting the stage for us today. So, really what I want to spend the next, 30 minutes or so going through before we get to some Q&A, get to your question, is really the topic at hand today, launching IoT products. And what we're going to focus on today is a lot more of the technology choices that you make up front and the impact that they can have on your ability to not only launch a solution quickly in multiple markets, but also be able to scale for the long term, including abilities to control costs over time, expand, whether that's domestically or globally as you grow, and then be able to maintain control and maintain a reliable solution as you continue with your IoT journey. Obviously, as Brian had just teed up for us, it's a new for so many companies. The potential is so large, and a lot of people are rushing to get in. And so, hopefully today we can help clarify a little of the best practices and different options you have to get you started. But before we jump in, I just want to spend a couple minutes very quickly just introducing you all to Aris. And for those of you who are not aware of what we do in this space, just a couple quick minutes there. Aris has been around, in the IoT or previously M2M space for the better part of the last 20 years, and primarily been providing cellular connectivity to IoT solutions. But we've also expanded to provide platform solutions, whether that's connectivity management or application enablement, and even end-to-end solutions in certain markets. Specifically for us, that means the connected car space and consumer automotive space. But we've certainly been in and around IoT for a very long time, and our mission as a company is to help companies figure out their path to IoT success and kind of help be their guide on that journey, because it is so new and because there is such promising potential on the other end of it. We're located in San Jose, California, but we do have offices throughout the U.S., also in Chicago, but then also globally in the UK and India, as well as a joint venture with SoftBank in Japan, and then also operational centers, to support our global solutions, kind of all over the world there. Around 275 people, all told, and really as a company, we're 100% focused on IoT and providing those IoT solutions all over the world. A couple other numbers just to put context around where, what we do and where we sit in the IoT ecosystem. We do have operational reach in pretty much everywhere in the world, whether that's connectivity or other solutions. Today we're supporting over 10 million devices on our networks, and collectively those are sending over 1 billion messages a day. And so, the 10 million number actually puts us in the top 10 worldwide in terms of IoT units under management. So, we've certainly seen a lot of growth and continue to see that growth. And part of what kind of allows us to be a trusted partner is that we've been there before and we have experience in launching these large-scale deployments. But enough about that. Let's jump into the topic at hand today. But first, real quick, just want to get a sense from the audience, if you could take a second to answer this poll question very quickly. Just want to get a feel for where you guys are in your IoT journey, whether you're exploring if it's for your business, obviously going to be common, especially in today's world. Have you made it to the proof of concept phase? Are you looking at, planning your deployment over the next 3 months? Or have you already deployed and are you looking to scale that solution? And so if you could just take, 20, 30 seconds here to answer those questions. Once you've selected your most appropriate option, please go ahead and click that submit button. And then we will take a look at the results. So again, take another 20 seconds or so, and then we will see where everyone sits. All right, let's take a look. So, okay, a good mix, but it looks like the majority of you are looking to see if IoT is right for your business, which is directly in line with what I expected. Again, there's so much promise around IoT and what it can do, and because it's so new, I think that there are a lot of question marks around what can the potential be and how to best realize that. Next up, building a proof of concept. A lot of you are in that bucket as well, so that's good to see. Started to wrap your mind around what that's going to look like, and then certainly for the rest of you who actually have a solution out there and are looking to scale. Hopefully, we cover some things today that are going to help you as you figure that out, because obviously that's a whole kind of separate set of challenge. Once you've built it and you've started, then what comes next? How do we grow this? And so a lot of what we're going to be talking about actually today is the decisions that you make up front, how that's going to impact your ability to scale and to grow and make it easier for you down the road. And so, I think a lot of that's going to resonate with everybody across the board here, which is good to see. So, with that, let's go ahead and jump in. I think overall, the point of today, we're going to talk about how cellular and how using a cellular connection and cellular connectivity management is going to help you optimize your IoT solution and going to help you grow globally. A lot of the benefits of cellular are around kind of the global complete coverage footprint, but then also the visibility and control that comes along with it. IoT connectivity, IoT cellular connectivity providers often come with a platform to manage the connection, and so we're going to cover what that looks like in the real world, and we're going to go through some use cases to show what it really means to manage your entire deployment from a centralized connectivity management platform, and go through the benefits that provides. Ultimately, the control, the visibility that it's going to deliver to you in your solution is what's going to make a lot of the difference in terms of when you look to go from one device to 10 to 1,000 to 100,000. By having a centralized platform to manage that connectivity, it will enable you to create and maintain the processes needed to have a reliable, successful solution as you scale. So obviously the coverage aspect of cellular can certainly help with that. But we're also going to talk about how it can improve your cost, reduce your costs really, and help you manage that on an ongoing basis. There will be issues, and so the key is being able to diagnose those issues fast and fix them faster, which is going to make the big impact to your solution. And then lastly, kind of touched on that as well, but a bit more on the being able to support and being able to remotely troubleshoot solutions out in the field. Obviously, kind of the whole point of IoT is that these devices are remote and able to send and receive information. And they're not obviously sitting in the same room as you. You can't go, turn them on and off and fix it physically. that can be very expensive. So we'll touch on some of those capabilities that a platform provides that enable that remote management, that remote problem solving to get devices up online faster. But first, let's go back to the coverage question and take a look at what the coverage aspect of cellular can do for you, and the impact of finding a partner that can make it easier for you to have the connectivity that you need. And obviously with cellular, one of the benefits, and when we talk about cellular versus something, some of those other technologies you could look at, whether it's Wi-Fi or Ethernet. Maybe so, there are obviously a lot of other solutions incorporating, short-range technologies like Bluetooth or Zigbee, RFID. There's a lot of question marks around some of the new technologies coming in, specifically around, LPWA, and whether that's, the LoRa's or the Sigfox, and some of those proprietary technologies. There's going to be cost benefits and other benefits, kind of pros and cons to each technology. One of the consistent things about cellular connectivity is its global availability. Really from and even with a single SIM card, for example, you can have access to a global cellular network. That's one of the strong advantages that cellular has over some of those other technologies is the widespread availability. So as you look to launch your IoT solution, one of the things you can do for your first generation, for example, is make it easier on yourself to have a consistent, consistently managed and a single process around how you go about connecting those devices. Cellular makes it the easiest for you to do, especially again as you're looking to get launched the first time. Depending on the specifics of your application and the solution that you're building, some other technologies may or may not be, slightly less expensive or whatever it might be. But in terms of getting you, it provides a lot of advantages that make your life easier to get going, be successful, and then look to evolve your solution over time. Obviously, IoT is built on emerging technologies, and emerging technologies by definition are constantly changing. And so, a big point, a big recommendation that we have is if you're looking to get started in IoT, get started. And so, getting devices out in the door, getting learning, starting to generate revenue, all of that is going to, get the ball rolling and help you expand as you go. Two other benefits of cellular are certainly the reliability. Cellular kind of gives you the best combination of coverage and uptime in so many ways. And so, the reliability of cellular networks, while not perfect, obviously no wireless technology is going to be perfect. But because of, the reliance of us, humans and our smartphones on those cellular networks, regulations in place and also the investment from the carriers that own those towers, creates a very reliable solution. And so as you look to again, get launched and grow, you can trust that cellular is going to be a good option in terms of making sure those devices remain connected. And certainly, last but not least, on this topic is the security around cellular networks. Going back to, the governing powers that manage these networks and design them, they are secure by design and they need to be. And so, certainly when compared to something like, say, a public Wi-Fi network where you don't know what other devices are on that network, are my devices going to be exposed? If you look at some of the more famous, security breaches over the last couple of years, a lot of them are due to, unsecure networks. And even though maybe the call flows of the application and all of that were designed to be secure, the activity being open and having other devices being able to use that same network to breach that solution or cause issues, a lot of that can be a lot of that risk can be reduced by picking a more secure connectivity option, again, especially to start with. And cellular is one of the more secure connectivity options out there, just as a whole, as a network. So now I want to jump into a quick use case that touches on some of those concepts very quickly. And so this is a partner of ours, WisePill. They have basically a connected pill box, a monitoring solution to make sure that patients are taking the right medication at the right times and not not either abusing that medication and taking more than they're supposed to, and then also on the other side, making sure that they do take it when they're supposed to. Medical adherence and basically wasted medication and medical supplies are a large part of that industry, representing billions of dollars worth of loss every single year. And so solutions like this that can help make sure that the right patients are getting the right medications on the right time intervals, not only provide better patient care, which is obviously the more important part of it, but certainly can help reduce costs and prevent wasted medication and so forth. And so one of the challenges that they were going to have is how to automate the deployment of these devices, especially to get started. As you can imagine, a lot of these patients are not going to be wireless experts. And so if they wanted to use, say, a Wi-Fi connection, that's going to require an on-site installation and activation, putting those credentials into that device. Not every patient is going to be able to do that. And so Cellular enables, basically automatic connectivity and automatic activations out of the box, and we're going to touch on that in a second. But it also enabled them to expand the solution globally. From a single global SIM, they were able to have access into 190 countries, access to multiple carriers, and be able to, seamlessly manage all of that without having to worry about what type of technology, what type of connectivity am I going to use on a case-by-case basis. And then obviously the last part is security. Certainly with patient information, there are, here in the U.S., HIPAA compliance laws, and that's a very, very big component of these solutions and IoT in general. But especially in certain industries, security becomes even more of a concern, even more of an important thing to tackle and address up front. Again, the secure nature of cellular networks enabled them to get past some of those challenges faster and get to market quicker. The next topic we want to talk about is how cellular connectivity along with cellular management platforms can help control costs and make sure that devices are doing what they're supposed to be doing in a way that is not going to kill the ROI for you building out the solution and deploying it. One of the common misconceptions about cellular is oftentimes people look at when picking a technology, cellular versus Wi-Fi versus something else. Cellular has the more upfront cost because it comes with a subscription, whereas Wi-Fi, for example, in most cases does not. The reality, though, is that ongoing costs associated with managing that connection can completely offset the subscription costs. And so even though cellular has a subscription, the management tools that come along with the connectivity management platform enable you to keep those costs predictable and low. And we're going to touch on some specific examples of how that works going on. But being able to, say, monitor connectivity, set alerts so that overage charges are prevented, are available in connectivity management platforms are going to help you keep those costs down. Control is another big aspect because control comes in kind of two fronts. The first front obviously being controlling costs, making sure that cellular costs remain predictable, making sure that overage charges are prevented. If you have a device that's supposed to do 2 megabytes in 1 month, it has a firmware bug and ends up doing 200 megabytes, that can kill your margin very, very quickly. And so being able to proactively know that device has a bug and it's doing more than it's supposed to on the third day of the month as opposed to the end of the month can help you control those costs because you can go in, suspend a device, change a rate plan, whatever it's going to be. But it also helps you control the end-to-end performance of that solution. Using alerting capabilities to not only prevent overages, but also be notified if a device is not sending as much data as it's supposed to, for example. If a device is supposed to check in every day and send a certain amount of data, connectivity management platforms help you track that. So you can be notified that, this device did not send as much data as it was supposed to today. You can then go look into it, make sure that there isn't some sort of connectivity issue, application issue, firmware issue, whatever it might be, that's preventing that device from connecting properly. Obviously, if the device is not connecting properly, the solution that you are providing is not working the way that you sold it as it's supposed to. And so being able to identify those issues faster because of some of the tools of a connectivity management platform is going to help you fix it faster and get that device back to doing what it's supposed to. It's going to help you improve your end user experience, create more stickiness with your customer base because your device works. The other aspect that a platform, cellular management platform, connectivity management platform provides is your ability to kind of streamline your operational efficiency and make it so that everything from your supply chain all the way through to your operation, you become as efficient as possible. Your support team becomes as efficient as possible in identifying issues, fixing issues, because ultimately that's going to lower, beyond the subscription cost there, that's going to make it so that your support team, your resources, which are not cheap, as we all know, are not wasting time sitting for somebody to call them back or trying to figure out what's going on with the device. They can get to that faster, and by being able to streamline, again, every aspect from supply chain on through, you can reduce costs. And I'm going to come back to supply chain now because we do have kind of a couple building slides that talk through what a management platform can do specifically to the supply chain process. And so, here we're going to walk you through kind of the cradle to grave of a SIM card, of a device, from when it was activated on the network to when it no longer needs to be reused, and going to highlight some of the capabilities that are unique to connectivity management platforms, which traditionally are not available with other technologies like a Wi-Fi or some of the short-range ones. And it starts with being able to provide SIMs live to your customer. So, what a platform enables you to do in most cases is to be able to activate that SIM ahead of time, send a live SIM to the customer, potentially even have it in a device tested, making sure that it's working. An example is going to be if you are providing a solution, you have the devices with you, you're piecing them together, whether you're building your own or you're buying off-the-shelf modems. You can insert that SIM card, activate it on the network, and put it in a live but non-billable state. What we call that in our system is the provisioned state, where the device has full network connectivity. We have pre-baked thresholds in our rate plans. Let's say worth of testing data that you need, just to make sure that you can connect it to the network and the light turns green, so you know that, yep, it's working properly. But then you're going to put it back in a box, and you're going to ship it to, whether it's through a distributor or it's going to sit on a shelf for 3 months before it gets activated. You're not spending money on that activation. It's in that non-billable state. Furthermore, that device is now ready to use out of the box because it is live on the network but not billable, and because there are those rate plan triggers. Once the device gets pulled out of the box, installed, plugged in, powered on, starts sending data, the platform can recognize that usage and then automatically flip billable. So not only does it save you costs as the device is making its way through your supply chain, but you now make it so that device does not need any on-site activations. The Wise Pill example we just talked about, most patients are not going to be able to go through an activation process even once they receive that device. So all they have to do is unplug, open that box, and whether it's plug in batteries or plug it into a wall power supply, whatever it is, it's going to turn on and it's going to work out of the box. Making it more control for you as a solution owner, more control over your costs, but then also making a better end user experience. In keeping with the same theme of cost control throughout the life cycle, also have abilities to suspend that connection. For other, certain verticals, certain industries, say it's an agriculture solution where you're not going to be using that tractor or that sprinkler in the wintertime when it's snowing. Being able to suspend it for up to 6 months, shut it down, make it so that you're not paying that monthly recurring subscription fee when the device is not in use. Cellular platforms enable you to stick to this model of only paying for devices when they are in use, and being able to do that in an automated and a controlled way. Then being able to cancel the device when it's not in use, and then depending on the scenario, maybe reprovisioning that device, reactivating it on the network for whether it's another location, another patient, another installation, whatever it might be, being able to reuse those devices so that you're not just wasting that hardware investment. Another use case I want to run through that kind of illustrates some of those points, in kind of a more real-world example, is what we've done with one of our partners, Lorenz, who provides solar monitoring solutions around the world. So, naturally, their solution, it needs to work, and it's going to monitor solar panel energy generation and usage and all of that. These devices are going all over the world, and with this specific use case, being able to activate those devices ahead of time before they reach the installation site does a couple things. First, allows them to obviously control their costs. They're not paying for devices while they're in transit, but then also making it so that those, at the time of installation, all the solar panel installer has to do is pull that modem out of the box and plug it into the inverters that it's monitoring. Power it on, and then it's already connected. So there's no on-site installation or activation process needed. What that really does is enables that installer to move to the next appointment faster. Even if it saves 10 to 15, maybe 20 minutes, whatever it is, per installation, that results by the end of the week in a couple extra installations. So the installers can get to more appointments faster, get more solar panels, get more devices out there. That's better for Lorenz, obviously, because that means more devices out in the field that are revenue generating. As you look to plan out your solution, you need to be thinking about things like, what will my chain be? How can I optimize that? How can I make it easier so that when I want to go from a handful of devices to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of devices out in the field, are the processes that I built on day one able to support that expansion? A big part of being able to scale is having planned for success and planned for scalability up front. And the more you do to map that out, to plan for success, and to automate as much as possible, the easier it will be for you to scale. And so, the platform capabilities that come along with cellular connectivity are designed to help promote that automation, to help promote that control, and to promote your ability to scale into the hundreds of thousands or even millions of units. And so, another example of how that can make a big impact. We have one more topic that we want to get to, which is going through kind of the diagnostics and troubleshooting capabilities of a cellular connectivity management platform and what that can do for the ongoing management of your deployment. But before we do, we're going to take one more quick break to answer this poll question. Generally speaking, just want to get a sense for what your plans are as you're building out or looking to scale. How many devices are you expecting to deploy over the next 12 months? Are you looking for 1,000 or less and more controlled deployments? Are you looking to scale up? And if so, which tier do you fall into? 1 to 10,000, 10 to 50,000, or 50,000 plus? So if you could take a second, 30 seconds or so to just answer this and click the submit button, then we will take a look at the results very shortly. All right, take another second or so, and then we will take the results. Take a look at the results. Okay, so it looks like this isn't too surprising, especially given that a lot of you were just looking to determine if IoT is right, or you were just getting started. But a couple of you have plans to grow beyond that, which is great to see. And so a lot of what we're going to be talking about next is as you look to scale and as you look to grow and manage. It's one thing to manage a small handful of devices or a couple, but it's an entirely another thing to manage, tens and tens or hundreds of thousands of units. And so, again, planning for that success, and as for those of you that are only looking at, when you're just getting started, you're looking at a handful of units, 1,000 units or so forth. Picture what it's going to look like for you. That you're rolling out with. What's it going to look like when I have 50,000, 100,000 units? Am I going to be set up for that type of scalability? And if not, what should I be thinking about today that can help that? And so hopefully, some of the things we've covered may answer some of those questions for you. But certainly management capabilities are going to make a big difference in your ability to support devices that are out in the field, especially as the volume grows. I mentioned previously that with any wireless networking solution, any wireless technology, there will be issues. To assume that 100% of your cellular devices are going to work 100% of the time with no issue is really unrealistic. And so the smart thing to do is to plan for how you're going to resolve those issues. Obviously, in what we see and what we fully expect is that the majority of you are not going to be necessarily cellular connectivity experts. You're building a solution for an industry that you have expertise in, and you are solving a problem out in the world that you understand better than anybody else, and that is where your expertise lies. You shouldn't have to be, a cellular connectivity expert. That's where we come into play. And so, finding the right support resources that when an issue does arise, who's going to be able to help us fix that issue faster? Obviously that's a key component of what we provide to our customers. It goes far beyond just providing a SIM card, a coverage footprint, and a rate plan. But our ability to support those deployments and support large-scale deployments, we prioritize because we've seen that be a major component to our customers' success. And without having support resources in place to help resolve those issues when they do arise, that ultimately creates a negative impact on not just our customers, but our customers' customers, because they are not equipped to resolve issues as quick as fast enough, and so they're having back and forth with their customers, waiting to resolve an issue, waiting to hear back, and so forth. That's why you really need a lot of that the security blanket, if you will, to help out when you need it. But we also view support slightly different than some others in the sense that in a perfect world in our mind, we're not even we rarely speak to our customers, obviously on a troubleshooting standpoint, because things are working the way that they're supposed to. But more importantly, you would have the tools that you need to resolve the issue on your own. You're empowered to act quick and resolve that issue without having to open a support ticket and wait and see. Obviously, for any network issue, there's not much you're going to be able to do, from the platform level. But in the example where there's a device issue, a device is not connecting properly. Some of the alerting capabilities I talked about before, being able to set around maximum usage or even minimum usage if a device is not connecting, being able to identify those problem devices faster, and having information in the platform that lets what direction is this issue? Is this a network issue? Do we think it's a device issue? Is the device registered on the network? Is it not registered on the network? The more information that you have at your fingertips, which again is kind of one of the main points of connectivity management platforms, you are better equipped to go move in the right direction faster and catch those issues as quick as possible and fix them faster. And that's going to make a big impact for your support operational efficiency. We touched on kind of more of the supply chain operational efficiency, but this is, kind of the ongoing. So when you see that a device is not, is registered on the network, for example, but it's not sending data, a tool in the platform, for example, say clear registration on that device, which effectively kicks it off the network and forces it to re-register. Kind of the same concept. Your internet stops working at home, you go to the Wi-Fi modem, unplug it, wait 3 seconds, plug it back in. With wireless technology, so often the case is that something got hung up when it first registered on the network that's preventing it from sending a successful transmission. Restarting that process, being able to do that remotely without having to send a technician to the site to manually troubleshoot or manually do something, or power cycle, whatever it's going to be. Remote capabilities from the platform can go a long way in making your support team far more efficient in managing issues and getting issues resolved faster. One more use case that I wanted to run through that kind of illustrates that a little bit is another one of our partners, Detectronic, who's got remote monitoring solutions for all sorts of different types of water pipes and valves and so forth. Oftentimes these devices are in these pipes and these valves, they're in very tough to reach places, and so it is not easy for them, if there is a connectivity issue, to send a technician out there to fix that issue on site. Depending on the specifics, we call that a truck roll, when someone has to roll a truck out to a device to fix an issue. The average cost of a truck roll can be anywhere from $300 to $500 to thousands of dollars, depending on where it is and hourly rates and travel requirements and all of that. So it can be very, very expensive to have to send somebody out there. By having a clear view of what devices are doing on the network, again, which is what connectivity management platforms provide, and by delivering troubleshooting tools that can help them resolve those issues remotely, even if it's, obviously it's probably never going to be 100%. And, for example, if a truck smashes a fire hydrant or a valve where there's a device on there and that device is smashed and it's not going to work anymore, so you'll have to send them out there. But even if you can get the majority or a large percentage of issues resolved from the platform, from your central network operations center or support center, that's going to make a very, very big impact in the total cost of managing your devices, especially when multiplied across tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of devices. Your ability to understand and act from a platform to try to resolve those issues is going to go a long way in making your life and your business run smoother, enabling you to scale, enabling you to be more successful. Another example of as you go to plan out what technology should we use and what processes should we be looking to put in place at the beginning, this can go a long way to choosing cellular for your first generation, choosing a connectivity management platform that gives you some of the capabilities we talked about today. If you build your processes around those capabilities, you're setting yourself up for success long term. You're making it so that you are equipped to handle management of large, volumes of devices. You're equipped to streamline your operational processes and keep your ongoing costs to a minimum, ensuring that your profit margins are protected. As you look to scale, as you look to grow, as you look to be successful in the IoT space and with your solution, those are all very important concepts to keep in mind up front to make your life easier as you grow. So just to summarize very quickly, what Cellular can do for your IoT solution up front for your first generation as you're looking to get launched and grow. Global connectivity is going to make it so that from a single SKU, a single device, a single connectivity process, you can have the coverage that you need, the reliability that you need, and grow from there. Furthermore, a lot of IoT cellular providers have multiple connectivity options on a single platform. I know that's what we focus on, so that our customers, our partners, have all the coverage needs met from a single source, from a single throat to choke, if you will. But having all those options on a single platform means that you won't have to develop multiple processes, you won't have to develop multiple relationships, you won't have to manage multiple partners in order to achieve the coverage that you need, and it will allow you to grow in a much more scalable, much easier way. How cellular and really specifically connectivity management platforms can help you improve your costs and allow you to manage that deployment more effectively. The more information you have as to what devices are doing, what the issues might be, and how to use platform capabilities to automate various aspects of your deployment, including all the way up to the beginning, the supply chain, can go a long way in terms of keeping your costs down, especially as you grow. Again, promoting that scalability is a key concept to keep in mind as you're planning your IoT solution launch. And I know I keep coming back to that, but just because it's such an important thing, planning for success up front. And then lastly, your ability to support and troubleshoot. It's one thing to have this ability and understand what devices are doing on the network, but those tools to be able to do something about it. Again, the clear registration example I gave, or being able to send an SMS message from the platform to try to get a response back from a device that's not communicating, being able to send IP pings, being able to see whether or not that device, if it's talking to a cell tower, a specific cell tower, or last talked to a specific cell tower, are there any other devices in that area talking to that same cell tower? Would let you know if this is maybe a device issue or if it's a network issue. All different tools that are going to help you better make this deployment, your deployment as you grow, again, keeping that in mind up front and building your processes around some of these tools is going to go a long way in terms of getting you to where you want to be, which is, a successful and growing IoT solution. So hopefully we saw and it made sense today how cellular can help answer and help, make it easier for you to launch your solution as you get going and reduce the complexity around some of the key components of launching a solution so that you can focus on what you know best and what you do best, and you can focus on selling and growing your business. Cellular connectivity management can go a long way in making your life easier there. So I know we want to get to the Q&A, and just one last poll question for you guys. We're interested. What other, non-cellular connectivity options have you considered for your deployment, whether that's Wi-Fi, those unlicensed LPWA technologies I'd referenced at the beginning, satellite, short-range wireless. There probably should be another in there, but, between these four, have you considered these? And, probably, we're interested so that we're, for the next webinar, we may spend some time talking about those technologies as well. So if you could take a quick second to answer this very quickly, and then we will wrap up and get to your questions. All right, let's take a quick look. Wi-Fi, not surprising, has generated a lot of interest. Again, Wi-Fi is very appealing given the low price tag up front, right? Traditionally, or in most cases, does not come with a subscription. However, you do lose out on all the visibility and control and management capabilities that we talked about. For example, if a Wi-Fi connection does go dark, you really have limited visibility into why it went dark. Was it the network? Was it the credentials? What really happened? And you really have no ability to do anything about it without, short of sending a technician out there, sending somebody to go fix it physically. But again, that truck roll can be very expensive. So there certainly is a trade-off there, and in most cases, Wi-Fi never actually is as free as it looks, but certainly has benefits, as well as a lot of the other technologies. So good to see that there's a healthy mix. And again, each of those technologies does have its pros and cons, but from getting launched with your first generation IoT solution, cellular can reduce a lot of those headaches, reduce a lot of those challenges. Then as you grow, as you expand, then look to optimize, add, bring in more solutions, next generation, potentially all under a single management platform, which is the direction that we're headed. So, but probably a topic for another day. So. With that, I'm going to toss it over to Brian to take us through your questions. Thank you all very much for attending today. And Brian, let's get to the questions.
Thanks, Evan. We have a ton of questions that have come through, so I'm going to jump right in. But before I get to that, while our presenter is answering our questions, please take a moment to complete the feedback form that appears on the left-hand side of your screen. With that, I'll go over to the questions. So, on the theme of Wi-Fi that you just touched on, Evan, so we have a question. I'm considering a Wi-Fi solution. What benefits will I have over cellular?
Yeah, good question. So, I think that initially the benefit of Wi-Fi is going to be, the obvious one is going to be cost. Again, Wi-Fi doesn't, in most cases, doesn't come with a subscription to access that network. However, with that, there's a trade-off for all the reliability and the management capabilities that go along with that. So, one of the other things that Wi-Fi does do well is location accuracy. If you don't want to have GPS capabilities, GPS hardware in a device, because Wi-Fi is relatively short range, especially compared to cellular, by knowing the location of that Wi-Fi modem, generally speaking, where that device is going to be with a higher degree of accuracy than trying to accomplish the same with, say, cellular. So, while recognizing that there are pros and cons to each, one of the things that we're working on at Aeris is having a hybrid Wi-Fi cellular connection, basically turning Wi-Fi access, combining that with cellular access, cellular network access, into a single automated subscription. So from the platform, Wi-Fi network connectivity can be managed and securely managed to take cost savings, but when that Wi-Fi network kicks out or if Wi-Fi is not available, being able to take advantage of the coverage and reliability of cellular. So I know that we've got some more information on that on our website if you're interested, but the trade-off between the two is, a lot of it's going to depend on the specific use case and application, but, we'd be happy to talk through that if you want to reach out to either myself or Scott and take a look at your specific situation.
So on a related theme, what about LTE-M and NB-IoT? What benefits do they have for IoT deployments?
Yeah, great question. And so, LTE-M and NB-IoT are really emerging technologies. And here in the U.S., we see that, AT&T and Verizon have deployed their LTE-M networks. Verizon just announced a couple days ago, or last week, that they'd be building out their NB-IoT network, and we know that AT&T has similar plans. LTE-M and NB-IoT offer a lot of good value, of good opportunity, good promise specific to IoT solutions. And so, but a lot of it's going to be use case dependent. For example, one of the benefits of LTE-M, and even more so for NB-IoT, it's going to be the reduction in hardware costs. The modules themselves are getting cheaper and cheaper. For LTE-M, that's getting down into the $10, sub $10 range possibly, and then for NB-IoT, the sub $5 range, once those technologies mature and scale. And for the right types of solutions, particularly low bandwidth solutions, because there are some throughput limitations in how fast data can go through on the network. But the real challenge today is the mass availability of those networks. Again, for LTE-M in the U.S., there are a couple options, but in most parts of the world, those networks have not yet been deployed, and so it's going to take probably another 12 to 18 months for those networks to really be built out and for that coverage to be widely available. And NB-IoT, in the U.S. is pushed even further out, but depending on the country, depending on the carrier, some carriers have prioritized NB-IoT here in the U.S., T-Mobile. But I think generally speaking for both of those, we're still at the infancy stage where those technologies are new and being deployed by the carriers. And so we certainly are planning on having those technologies supported on our platform. We definitely recognize the value. But in a lot of cases, a lot of solutions, especially globally, we'll need those networks to mature a little bit in terms of coverage availability before they can become widely used and widely trusted from a widely available coverage standpoint.
Thank you. So next question, do you provide eSIMs?
Great question. I know that's a hot topic in today's world. Embedded SIMs, commonly more, typically when people refer to eSIMs, and I'm making that assumption now, is that you're referring to EUICC capable SIM cards, which are SIM cards that are capable of having and managing multiple carrier profiles. So, in previous SIM cards, a SIM card was locked to a specific carrier network, and the only way to change that would be to physically replace that SIM card in the device. EUICC SIMs, when combined with a subscription management platform, enable that SIM card to be remotely updated and changed to a different carrier network, have a new carrier profile pushed down and turned on to be active. That obviously has a lot of promise and benefit to IoT solution providers, because it reduces it basically enables you to have more flexibility, more freedom when it comes to having devices on networks and managing them and flipping them. And while the technology promises so much more flexibility, so much more control, what we're seeing is a general hesitation from a lot of the carriers directly to participate in these solutions. Obviously, in addition to more flexibility for the customer means less flexibility and less ownership for the carrier. And so for any EUICC capable SIMs that are out there, it represents the potential that those could switch off their network overnight. And so there's initial hesitation to participate in those solutions today. Aris as a carrier neutral connectivity provider and platform provider, we have EUICC SIM capabilities, especially with our global SIM being able to add additional profiles at a later date, provide service insurance and even future proofing by potentially able to add an LTE profile to a 3G subscription, so long as the hardware is compatible. All things that we are absolutely moving forward with in setting up a lot of the technology and the infrastructure in place so that when the carriers do start to participate and make their profiles available to these types of solutions, we will be able to support that in any way that the customers need, whether it's connectivity we provide or if they want to bring their own carrier to the table. But great question.
Thanks, Evan. So I'm sure the answer in this next one is partially it depends, but which cell technology, 2G, 3G, 4G, maybe even 5G, are best for IoT deployments?
Yeah, great question. A lot of it is going to depend. Unfortunately, I wish I had kind of a magic, all-encompassing single answer. But the reality is that it changes use case to use case. With 2G technologies being sunset at different rates around the world, some solutions are facing a quicker sunset than others. For example, we all know that AT&T has already decommissioned their 2G network in the U.S. And there's a little bit of unclarity as to when T-Mobile and Verizon and Sprint are going to follow. And so we do know that generally speaking, we're looking at 3 to 5 years of on the CDMA side of 2G availability, and probably just a couple on the GSM 2G availability. So depending on your solution and how long it's needed to be out in the field, we have customers and partners that do everything from remote tank monitoring and solar panel monitoring, where those devices need to be out in the field for 10, 15, 20 years. And then we also have customers and partners that are doing disposable GPS trackers, where anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks to a couple months, that device might be out in the field, and then it gets thrown away. So there's longevity things to consider. There's also regions to consider. The sunset issues that we have in the U.S. are not the same elsewhere. In Europe, it's likely to be around through the middle of the next decade. So you can take advantage of not only the network availability but also the module costs. Next, obviously, with LTE and LTM and NB-IoT, certainly high bandwidth applications are going to look to use LTE, LTE networks, whether it's Cat 1 modules, Cat 3 modules that can support that high rate of transmission for video monitoring or digital signage or things of that nature. Whereas, LTM and NB-IoT are kind of more of a scale down towards, the connected sensors that are sending very low amounts of data. So again, depends on your specific needs and what you're looking for. And so, one of the ways that we go about addressing that is to provide all different types of connectivity options. Everything from, both types of 2G 2G GSM, CDMA, 3G GSM, CDMA, LTE, LTM. We have plans to deploy our own NB-IoT network. And so having a kind of single source, a single platform for the best connectivity option for you, that's a lot of where we start our conversations with customers and partners, is taking a look at what are your specific requirements and then providing a recommendation based on what technology we think is going to be right for you. But great question, and something if you want to talk more about your specific use case and what we can do and what we recommend for you. I believe both my contact information and Scott Cummings' contact information is up on the screen. Feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to take a look at your specific requirements.
Great, thank you. So I have a question around LPWAN. It says, based on your expertise, which standards must be used in the next few years? Great question.
We see lots of different, with LPWAN solutions, there's lots of different, especially in the unlicensed space, whether you're looking at LoRa or Sigfox and some of those others. It's a little difficult to predict as we sit here right now today. It's easier to trust in the licensed alternatives, being LTM and NB-IoT, because we know that there's carrier commitment and there's infrastructure that can be used to upgrade those. And so, we're obviously also aware of partners coming in and providing, LoRa, for example, and those networks are still getting built out. A lot of the decision to which technology to pick is going to be dependent on where exactly you need to go. If you're looking at rural deployments, it's unlikely that a lot of those proprietary unlicensed networks will make it that far, at least in the short term. And so certainly an LTM, for example, is probably your best LPWA solution today. But if you're looking at smart city solutions, it's going to start with what coverage networks are available, and it might not always be the exact same standard everywhere you need to go. Another reason why, from the ARIS platform perspective, we'll be looking to support all of those technologies. So whatever technology you need, and again, whether it's something we provide or something you bring to the table and manage on our platform, that's exactly why we're moving in that direction, is because so much of it is going to depend on a case-by-case basis, especially at scale. So, I hope that answered your question. I know that we are out of time right now, so if you want any more information, again, please feel free to reach out.
Well, I'm afraid that we're out of time, as Evan said. So I'd like to thank our speaker, Evan Whitelock, and the sponsor, ARIS. As a reminder, if you're registered as a group, please add the names and emails of all in attendance for this webinar on the exit survey. And then on behalf of the IoT Institute, I wish you a great day.